Hello and welcome to another one of my videos. In today's video, I'm going to be doing the second episode of everything I learned professionally trading gold, or something akin to that. I should know considering it's my series. I can't quite recall what I named it, but it will stack up when I put the title up. Today's episode, so episode 2, I'm going to be talking about accountability and culpability. And I think it's going to be more of a philosophical one than a business one. But I think it's going to be important for people to hear. I think it's important for me to say, just for my own benefit, because I've grown a lot as an individual over the years, and understanding that these two words are the opposite sides of the same coin. And I didn't understand that when I was growing up, and it caused me a lot of problems, both health-wise, mental, physical. So if anyone can benefit from this video, then you do you, fantastic. So when I was growing up, I was always a bit of a ball breaker. I always wanted the best. I always tried 100%. It was 100% on nothing. That's how it was. And that's how I am now. But I cut myself more slack. I'm kind of on the days where it's not quite there for obvious reasons. You guys as a viewership know I've had to fight my own illnesses over the last few years. So I'll try and I'll try and I'll try because I had this mindset that I myself was responsible for both the positivity and the negativity. It was all about accountability when I was growing up. And I hate people now who don't have accountability. Say, oh, well, my life didn't work out, blah, 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 X, Y, Z. It's always anecdotal as well. When I hear it from people who are constantly negative, it's always anecdotal. Well, my life didn't work out because of X, and my life didn't work out because of Y. And it went against my very core nature. I'm like, okay, well, if it didn't work out, prove it. Have you done that introspection and gone through that painful scenario why it didn't work out? Truth is, most people blame other people because it's just painful to admit that life hasn't gone the way that you want it to. And that's a hard pill to swallow. There's situations in my life where I blamed other people when I was younger because it's easier to say it didn't work out for me because it was out of my control and life isn't fair. And the truth is, did I try hard enough? Did I bang on every door? Did I phone every possible person to put me in a position to get me there? And the truth is, I didn't. I thought I did at the time. It's easy to say, well, I wanted this and it didn't work out. It's your fault. And that's hard. That's really hard. Now, I can take accountability for my own life and my own actions, and I've been very good at it in terms of my health recently anyway. In terms of the business, that's the standard. If I can't hit that, then that's on me. That is 100% on me. But it isn't. And that's the problem. How do you balance that? How do you balance taking blame, holding your hands up when it's right, and saying, actually, you're the problem when you're wrong? It took me many years to learn it. So I remember there was a time when I must have been about 14 playing football. We won 4-1 and I was livid, absolutely livid. I was a defender. I was a centre back. We conceded a goal. It was sloppy. Was it my fault? Not really. Still pissed me off to no end. And I think when you're wired that way, it's not good for you. It's not good for the people around you. You need to learn to say, actually, sometimes life doesn't work out. Sometimes life ain't fair, but you gave it your best shot. And that's fine. You walked away with a W. It's okay. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to drag yourself through hell over absolutely everything. And you don't have to beat yourself up over the things that went badly. And some things do go badly. And sometimes things go badly because there's no universal standard over what is good and what is bad, and what is fair and what is unjust. It's not that simple. So when I went into business, just to give you a backstory for those of you who are newer to the channel, I never set out to be a coin dealer. I put myself through university. I struggled. I had a lot of issues. I was broken. I was absolutely broken as a man. So I took my old job back, working nights at a supermarket. And I can turn around and say, and to talk about accountability, I wanted to work in the city. I wanted to be a trader. I wanted to trade shares. I've always had an endless fascination for the stock market. I traded shares when I was at uni. One of the first things I did as an 18-year-old was open up a share dealing account. Now, I'm not going to say I was as savvy as I am now. Nowhere near. It's taken many years. I've put my 10,000 hours in, put it that way. But I think I, I took that job and I just said, well, life hasn't worked out because my mother's sick and uni was hard. And the truth is, I didn't try hard enough, and it was a bit of a cop out. It's taken a long time to kind of accept that. But something good came out of it because it allowed me to focus on the coins. So I fell into something that was actually better for me because of it. And I worked hard at it and I put my 10,000 hours in. And now I make very good money. I make very good money just because I've been established for so long that people know that I'm fair and I'm just and I try my best. I've never gone into a deal thinking I'm going to screw you over. It's not me. It's not my characteristic. It's not how I'm wired as an individual. And I think people have gravitated towards that because, yes, I may be in the top 10% of UK earners and I have been for years. But the truth is, I just love dealing with coins. I'm not too concerned about the monetary side of it. It's just there's a fairness in treating yourself right. So some people think that's 25%. I think that's ridiculous. I try and aim for 10% across the board. So yeah, I started as a coin dealer and I went into it. I'm going to impose my virtues and my characteristics as a person onto the groups. I didn't like some dealers back then. I thought they were greedy. And this is way before I had supplies. I was just buying, I was doing pre-orders. So for example, like the QBs, that was me. Like this wasn't mine because of the ridge. I would get these in. I think I'd slap 10%. I can't quite remember. It was a very long time ago. Slap 10% on it. I'd cap it. And I would just be doing the paperwork side of things. And I thought, I don't want to be like one of these dealers who, in my mind, it was a me versus them thing. They're charging too much money. They're greedy. It was very simplistic when I was younger. I'm not going to say I thought I knew everything, but there were a lot of things where I look back and think I wasn't experienced enough to understand the fuller picture of this. So I would trade, I'd make my cut, and the jump between doing it for beer money and professional, it's a big jump. It's a really big jump. So if you're making 10%, you want to do it professionally, you've got to sell 200. But if you sell 200, that's the minimum. If you sell 200 and it's only silver, you're going to incur VAT. And then you realise, well, actually, 10% is a fair rate. But when you've got a business, 10% doesn't include the added costs that you wouldn't think was associated with it. So if you're paying a wage, you got to pay the government. If you're paying for the VAT, you got to pay the government. If you're doing it commercially, you got to have boxes. I might go through 500 boxes a year. I'll probably spend what, £1 a box or something like that. That's got to go into the price. You know, there's all these little things. You don't even pay yourself for the time. You just hope that you get to a point where it's lucrative enough. And in my case, it got to that point. That's hard. So when I was thinking, these dealers, you know, they're taking the biscuit a little here. And bear in mind, they were a lot fairer on prices back then, or at least some of them. I used to snipe 10th ounce coins for spot plus 3% when spot was a lot lower. So think of that in a monetary term. Think about, you know, you're making way more money. You're charging spot plus 10%, but 10% of £2,000, and they're paying under spot. A lot of money. They were fairer back then. And that's how I made my name, because I took advantage of these. And my mindset was, well, I'm fair and I'm doing it for the people. And I'm not really that bothered by the business side of it. And it's a lot of mental gymnastics to say, well, actually, I would never do it to someone who brings it to me. But if it comes to a dealer and I essentially rip them off, I'll not rip them off, but accept the price that they're putting it out for, knowing it's worth a lot more money, I understand that's mental gymnastics, but the younger me was like, well, it's fair game. And I still think it is fair game. But where do you put that on the fairness scale? I don't have an answer for that. I just know if I treat people right, I'm okay with that. I'll sleep easy at night doing that. Now, one thing I also realised, if we're going to talk about accountability and culpability, is I've lost 3 suppliers in my time. And if you're brutally honest with yourself, you've got to say, well, why is that so? Usually the common denominator is the problem. And I've had a lot of thinking about this. The first supplier absolutely destroyed me. Mentally, I came close to quitting. I was just ready to throw the towel in. And this is way before I got to the point where I was making mega money. I was still working my arse off. I was doing okay, but it wasn't like now where I've been set up for years and years and years. It really did me over. And I come to the conclusion that that failed because it was in someone else's best interest for that relationship to fail. It wasn't between me and the man. I don't believe that anyway. It doesn't matter either way. We never spoke again. He said what he had to say. Fair enough. I can respect that. We moved forward. Never spoke again. The next one was to do with Brexit. And the last one, again, someone's had a little word in someone's ear because it benefits them for me not to deal with them. And you get to the point, it's like, well, actually, I can take accountability. I can hold my hands up and say when I got it wrong, and that's okay. But I'm not accepting that. That's not my fault. I'm not saying I helped myself in the last situation. I remember saying to the gentleman, I will have my pound of flesh out of you. And I did. I did a few times. But we got to that point for a reason. I should have just walked away a lot earlier on. But it's okay. It doesn't matter. I don't have bad blood against him. He can trade. He can do what he wants. Like, I'm not. If I wanted to slag him off, I could tell you who it is. I'm not doing that to any of these people. It's not because there might be repercussions. It's because sometimes it's better to talk about these things as a point of learning than to talk of them out of a point of anger. And that's okay. I've made peace with that. There's also going to be people that, they're not going to like you for whatever reason. And there's nothing you can do. And I've had this issue my whole life. And I think it's due to how I'm wired. You can read between the lines on that one. I've always tried to be a positive influence on people. I'm not saying I always got it right. But it's alienated some people over the years. It's meant that I'm not always the most popular person because being truthful is not good for most people. I always thought it was a benefit to just be open and honest about things, but most people don't like that. On the one hand, they say, I prefer the truth, and on the other hand, they don't like the truth. And it's finding that happy medium. People are different. They're wired differently. The amount of people that I've had come after me, try and shut my business down, some of them out of pettiness, some of them out of jealousy, some of them because it was commercially a good thing if I wasn't on the scene. Doesn't matter now, there's more competition. It's when I first started, people would go after people. It was a community-based thing, but then the unscrupulous people would do that. I've heard some absolute horror stories of people doing other people really dirty, like phoning up HMRC, putting things online that are just not true, spreading lies and really nasty, vindictive stuff. And unfortunately, that's the world we live in. I had a gentleman who has been attacking me he attacked me for maybe 18 months, purely because I kicked him out of my group. I won't mention him again. He phoned me up and I just told him I didn't care. Put the phone down. Just because you put yourself out there in a community, it doesn't give people the right to talk to you how they see the world. If someone is out of order, then call them out. That's not a problem. You need to stand firm with some people. Now, this gentleman took conversations I had with him, put them online, trying to make out I'm a bad person. This was 4 years after we had that conversation. So he scraped the conversation and said, would you trust a man like this? Well, if you don't trust me, you shouldn't be dealing with me. That's the bottom line. Or if you do deal with someone you don't trust, make sure there's legal remedies if it goes wrong. For me, I don't like dealing with people I don't trust. And it's a gentleman's game. And that's the game I want it to be. I'm accountable for my actions. And when people are in the wrong, they're culpable as well. Same side of the same coin. Or different side of the same coin, sorry. Anyway, I hope you've taken something from that. And I'll see you on the next one.